Okay, so the meeting is being recorded. Thank you, everybody, for permission to do so. And so anyway, Monty, if you'll go ahead and put up our welcome slide.
Okay, one moment.
Sure.
It's firing off. 1 second.
Sure, not a problem.
Okay, can you see that screen?
I can. So today's session is Employment First, and Employment First is an initiative that believes that all people can work. And so it's important that we look at how do we make that happen. And so Monty's going to join us and talk about the Employment First initiative, him and Shamir, employment benefits. And so Robert will get to your question, I hope, and then the services available through Medicaid waiver programs that support employment. This is a two-part session, and my understanding is Monty will do most of the talking today and Shamir will do the talking tomorrow, but we welcome both of them. Okay, Monty, next. For those of you who may or may not know about the self-determination group, it was established in 2014 by my daughter and Jamie Butler, who's on the call today. And they wanted to serve our community in a way that amplified the voices of people with disabilities to live a self-determined life, and that's as each person defines it, and to advance the disability rights movement. And really what they told me is that to tell their stories, and both of them had been involved in providing public testimony, and they know the importance of their stories, and so it's to advance the disability rights movement. We are affiliated with Texas Advocates. It is a statewide chapter of individuals with disabilities and the ARC of the DFW area. And if you want to stay connected with us past today, here's ways you can do this. There's our email and our Facebook. Our Facebook is a very active page. We post daily, sometimes a couple of times a day. And when we talked about the employment, employment and its importance, we've hosted, we're hosting 4 sessions this month. Last week, we held one with information on the importance of telling people about your disability and the benefits and the pros and cons of that. And we had a wonderful presenter from UNT, and we loved the session. I do have the presentation. I'm not at and they asked that I not share it with those who did not participate, but I'm happy to answer questions if you have them. You can send us an email at the self-determination group email address. And then also we will do the second part of this session tomorrow. And then on Saturday, we're screening the film Bottom Dollars, and we will have a panelist presentation after the screening to talk about how we advance people, employment first in Texas. What are the barriers? What are things we need to do? Looking at policies and et cetera. So we hope you'll join us and get engaged in how we can advance the movement. Okay, Monty. So here's information about both Monty and Shamir. I have put this out in our information that we used in marketing. I'm not going to go over it. It's a lot of words that I'm going to let Monty and Shamir introduce themselves. And again, thank you both. They have been great to work with me behind the scenes to get this going, and we're going to start.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Pascal, for inviting us. Some of you may know we had hoped to attend the Look Ahead conference or event that was going to occur back in May, and of course that had to be postponed. So when Ms. Pascal reached out to us a little over a month ago, we were happy to and honored to be asked to make this presentation. So thank you very much. And my name is Monty Chamberlain, and as the bio says, I have a little over 36 years of state government experience. About 20 of that is in the health and human services arena. I actually worked at one of our state supported living centers in our business area, and for the last 5 years, I've been working with this unit up until March, doing a tremendous amount of traveling around the state, working with employers to help educate them on the many benefits of hiring people with disabilities, as well as doing some training, such as what Ms. Burek mentioned she had attended, I think maybe last summer. I'm very fortunate to be sitting next to an awesome coworker, Miss Clemens, and I'll let her introduce herself.
All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining. I just like to say I hope you get something from this webinar training today. Me, myself, actually been with the state for over 16 years. A lot of it was with Family Protective Services, but majority is with IDD and previously when we were Department of Age and Disability Services. Now I've actually been in the Special Projects Unit for IDD Behavioral Health Services for over 6 years, and a lot of it is training, getting out there, speak with providers, families, individuals on employment initiatives, and letting them know you can work and employment is possible. So, and I'm going to leave it with that. And hi, Sue. Thank you for joining. It was good to hear your voice. But I hope you get something from today.
Did you want this slide, Miss Pascal?
We were just going to show it at the end.
Okay, sorry, I should have put that at the end. I'll come back to it. All right, so as we get into today, I'm moving to our first slide, but before I jump off into it, I thought I'd give you a quick overview, everyone, of what we're going to cover. As was noted, this is a two-day session, so we're going to cover a variety of topics around, first, employment first. What is it and why is it important? And then we're going to talk a little bit today about the upcoming home and community-based services rule changes known as HCS. Also, I'm going to touch a little bit because it's covering this in 2 days. We're trying to touch on several things. Also, we want to talk about why it's a good business decision to hire people with disabilities, a good business decision for the business. Right there, we'll pause. I'll quit screen sharing, and then we'll get some assistance showing a video. We touched it earlier. Hopefully that'll work smooth. After the short video, that one's focused for businesses. Then we're going to come back to me. I'll talk a little bit about services. We'll move transition about employment services and benefits, primarily talking about employment services at that point. We're going to touch on a few concerns that families have when an individual goes to work and fears that they have before someone goes to work. Then we're going to watch another video we have, and I think Ms. Pascal mentioned that she viewed that and saw someone she knew in that video. And then what we'll target doing today is wrapping up close to 12:45 so that we can leave some time for questions in the last 15 minutes. May not be spot on with that at 12:45, but close. And we'll give you guys plenty of time to answer questions. However, I'll be talking, so if you have something really burning that you want to ask right at the moment, just interrupt me, please. Otherwise, if you want to just jot the question down, ask it at the end if you'd like, and just in case we answer it along the way. Now, tomorrow, we'll dive deeper into what Robert was talking about that he would like to hear about, is working and the impact of wages on your benefits, SSI, SSDI, etc. So that will be more tomorrow. I'll do most of the presenting today, as was mentioned earlier, and Shamir may desire to jump in and help me if a question comes up or any topic that she feels like we ought to cover deeper today. And then tomorrow, I'll be kind of sitting where she is, and she'll be where I'm at, where she'll take the lead and do the bulk of the presenting tomorrow, and I'll be here in case she needs something as well. So we'll dig right into this. Is everyone good?
We're good. Yeah,
right.
So maybe I just want to ask one thing of the participants. If you guys have questions, just because this is a little bit of a progressive presentation, instead of interrupting Monty, if you don't mind putting your questions in the chat, and then we can come to them after that. Is that okay, Monty?
Oh, that's great. I didn't even think of that. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay, so Sue had seen this last year, so a lot of this material, Sue, you have seen. And it's kind of a blend of several things you may have seen in the course of a one-day presentation last year. But let's start off with the topic of employment first. What is it? What is it really about? What do those two very important words mean? And it's simply this. It is, as stated, the philosophy that employment in the general workforce should be the first and preferred option for individuals with disabilities receiving assistance. So from a service provider perspective, this should be the first and the foremost service that they offer when they do an intake or at an annual meeting each year with an individual and with their families. This is a trend across the nation and has been for several years now to focus more on offering a service that creates the opportunity for greater independence for someone to have resources and be in control of those. I heard that touched on a few moments ago. And so when anyone who, like each of us, many folks go to work, and that's just kind of commonplace. But for far too many years, for individuals who receive services, that's been something that's been offered more as a second option or third option way down the line. So simply, it means real jobs, real wages, that an individual can earn minimum wage or better, and the opportunity to have opportunities for advancements just like everyone else on a job. So what does it mean when we say employment in the general workforce? Well, again, it means regular jobs like everyone else in society in typical work settings, not special settings such as workshops that are set aside. Now, don't get me wrong. Rehabilitation services and workshop settings have great value, especially as an individual is building skills to progress into integrated work. But the end game, the goal, would ultimately be for someone to have the opportunity to enter into the workforce, working side by side, alongside people without disabilities, again, earning regular wages, even earning benefits, just like everyone else at that job would have, and becoming a part of the economic mainstream of our society. Further, working in the community in an integrated setting offers individuals the chance to be part of their community, not only in the community, but part of the community, where that they can participate in activities such as social clubs if they desire, if they want to attend churches, they should be able to do that in the community and become part of the community. And just as with everyone, being part of your community just opens more doors for independence and to be part of society. So when we talk about employment first, we need to start at the beginning. So when an individual sets employment, they do this with assistance from service providers. So for example, if the service provider did not even let them know that employment services are available, they would just assume that they're not available. So they set the goal with the assistance from the long-term services and supports provider. Now, it is not mandated that anyone by government requirement go to work if they receive benefits. It's a choice, because if they're receiving benefits, there's a reason. They deserve the benefits they receive. Instead of it being a mandate, it is actually a goal based on the individual's desire. Now, many times when we're talking with parents, they would say, yes, it may not be your mandate, but it is our mandate. that our son or daughter go to work. So that's a family choice, right? There's also many families who have concerns with their son or daughter going to work. But it is a goal that is set collectively. It is done with assistance from the service provider. It is done with involvement from family members, and it is something that is matched with what the individual desires. So you think of the individual wants to go to work. So we think of what are the skill sets possessed by the individual and what are their desires in the way of work. So we don't want a service provider to target what the job should be for the person, specifically by saying, oh, I think you would be good at this. We want the service provider to assist the person as they hone in on what they believe the job should be for them. And of course, this has to be documented on the individual's plan, either annually or at the onset of services. Now, if the service provider works with the individual at the onset and on the initial plan, there is no desire to pursue employment and it's not supported by the family, that's not the end game. You come back next year and the service provider brings it up again, and in time, and in many times, the goal for employment comes to be in the years ahead. So why is this different than what had been done in the past? Well, quite frankly, in the past, when it came to publicly funded services, employment in the community was among the many number of choices that could have been offered, but it was generally shuffled down to the bottom of the list. That's historically how the case was. And historically, over the years, individuals were aligned with day-type services or workshop settings where they earned sub-minimum wage. Now, that may have been a necessary step or a needed step for someone building skills. A workshop setting can help someone build work skills that they take forward to work in the community, and even the day habilitation setting provides such. But what's different about this is that moving into the future and in our current world, employment can be one of the first things offered or the first thing offered. But if everyone determines that some other service is more needed at the moment, so be it. Now, Employment First allows the individual to receive assistance with finding a job in the community and become a tax-paying citizen. It is the preferred choice. The Employment First assumption is this. It starts with a presumption that everyone can work. That's difficult for a lot of folks to digest sometimes. It's a very difficult thing for some service providers, sometimes family members, but the fact is this. We have seen incredible stories in this state and across the nation of individuals who have been able to go to work in the community because the supports were in place. Now, there may be extreme supports needed for certain individuals. Some individuals are going to require a lot more supports than others. But when everyone comes together and determines what those supports are, it is our belief, and what we have witnessed is that anyone can go to work if they desire. Another situation is unlike other individuals of working age in our society, it has historically been presumed that a person with a disability had to demonstrate their readiness for work. So instead of assuming that someone can work, individuals with disabilities far too many times had to prove their fitness for work or their readiness for work. The philosophy of Employment First assumes that individuals are capable of working until proven otherwise. So back to my point that the philosophy is everyone can work with the right supports. Oops. I'm sorry, one moment. We okay still with the screen?
We are.
Okay, thank you. All right. Now, why is this important? Well, the first thing that we need to realize is that Texas actually became an official employment first state back in 2013 by state legislative action. 7 years ago, our state officially became an employment first state. Now, from that, 3 key agencies, TEA, the Texas Workforce Commission, and HHSC adopted policies, and those are in policy for each agency. And those 3 agencies, of course, work closely together, but to mirror what the legislature, and expand upon, quite frankly, what the legislature adopted back in 2013. I don't know if everyone's going to receive the presentation after today, but this link, if you would like to jot this down, is where you can find more information about Employment First in Texas and the policy. And I'll hold just a second in case anyone wants to write that web link down.
So, Monty, I will send this out to all who are participating today, if that's okay with you.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. And I'll move on.
Thank you.
Also, something that's occurring is the Home and Community-Based Services rule changes. HCBS rule change. Some of you may have heard of this, but to take you back in time a little bit, the rule was released in 2014 by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. There was a deadline for compliance for all states for March 17th, 2019. However, that date was extended. And at the moment, we're not aware of a current further extension being considered, but the current deadline extension is March 17th, 2022. Well, what is this going to do? So the purpose of the rule change is to make sure that individuals receive services and settings that are integrated and that they have support to full access to the community. In short, it focuses on 4 main things: opportunities for individuals to seek employment in the community, earn comparable wages in integrated settings, for individuals to be part of their community, for them to be in control of their personal resources, and to get the same access to services in the community as those who are not receiving HCBS services. So now moving forward, let's talk a little bit about what businesses need to know about why it's a good business decision to hire someone with a disability. Well, first off, we would like for businesses to focus on someone's ability as opposed to the disability. A person with a disability has a genuine desire to work and can show that they can contribute as a productive member of the organization. They're also out-of-the-box thinkers. They are innovators. And why do we say that? Well, they are innovators because, excuse me, many times a person with a disability is faced with a challenge the moment they wake up, whereas a non-disabled person takes many things for granted. A disabled person many times faces their first challenge when they wake up in the morning, simply to get rolling, to get functioning into the day. Well, because of those challenges they face, they become innovators and out-of-the-box thinkers in how to deal with things day in and day out. And that out-of-the-box thinking, that innovative thinking, transcends into the work setting. There are a few myths versus facts that I want to touch on right quick. One myth is that businesses may think that hiring a qualified person with a disability is much more than just filling an open slot. But employers have a lot of false perceptions that we're going to debunk a couple of myths. One myth I want to touch on is a lot of employers think that hiring a person with a disability is going to increase their workers' comp rates, and that's simply not true. Your workers' comp rates are determined by the hazard of the occupation and the number of accidents that you have on the job. The disabled individual is not going to be more of a hazard on the job. Actually, they're going to be more cautious, and that's been proven time and time again. So they will not raise the business's workers' comp rates. Another myth I want to touch on is that a lot of employers think that the person with a disability is going to call in sick more often. Well, you know what? It's exactly the opposite. Person with a disability wants to be at work. They hardly ever call in sick, and they're also on time. You know, if we hear something from employers, especially with entry-level positions across the state, a reoccurring theme that we hear from employers is, you know, Janie is always so early to work. My only concern is, if I had any complaint, I just wish she wouldn't show up to work so early. Well, how many employers would not love to have that as a problem? For even the majority of their employees to show up to work on time every day. Now, it is a good return on the investment for an employer to hire someone with a disability. Businesses that employ people with disabilities, they turn social issues into business opportunities. They also have increased revenues that are generated by access to new markets. They open up new customer bases when they hire someone with a disability. It is very good marketing for the business. When customers in your community recognize that you've hired someone with a disability, they appreciate that. And it again opens up a whole new world. I touched on this earlier, but I'm going to touch on it one more time. When you hire someone with a disability, we educate businesses to the fact that they're going to bring someone who is innovative into the work setting. It helps, basically employees with disabilities bring unique understanding that transform a workplace and enhance products and services. And also businesses that employ people with disabilities, they can define the future by development of next generation products and services. If an employer will capitalize on the talent once hiring a person with a disability, the things that that individual can bring to the table is endless. So what are some of the benefits of hiring someone with a disability? Well, the employer's going to see that the individual's going to have job performance that is equal to or higher than those without disabilities. As a matter of fact, employers tell us that individuals with disabilities most of the time set the benchmark for the other employees to follow in the form of productivity, focus on the job, attendance, and so many other things. Also, an individual with a disability is going to help a business's retention rates. They're going to slow down turnover, especially in difficult to fill positions, entry-level positions. The individual with a disability is tenfold more likely to stay on the job and not quit. So at this time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If I figure out, there I go. And we're going to see a short video. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn over the reins.
I believe everybody, disabled or not, deserves a chance to make something of themselves. What I'm looking for as an employer is somebody who's motivated to work.
It's really important that people with disabilities are given the chance to work because they are so dedicated and they love their jobs and they love coming to work.
People have a choice of where they're going to spend their money. It could be for price, it could be for location or product, but it's also what the company stands for. So it's really important that businesses hire people that reflect the community.
It is good business to hire people with disabilities because it strengthens and adds diversity to a team.
Clarence is a courtesy clerk here, and he sacks customers' groceries, and then he takes them out to the car.
He just wants to help. He's that giving type person.
I'm a bagger. I sweep the stores and the floors up at Food Town.
He's self-motivated and has a great work ethic. It tends to rub off on other employees as well.
He's worked for our company since 2008. We're very proud and appreciative to have Clarence on our team.
Clarence has exceptional customer service skills. He brings a smile to work every day, and he knows more people by name here than I do.
Cole is a shining example of somebody who loves his job and loves his work.
I like working at Home Depot because I like helping customers.
What's unique about Cole is his zest for wanting to figure out things and offer more and be able to solve problems for both customers and associates.
We have a Home Depot app where you can look up products and locations, and he does not hesitate to assist customers when they come in.
He almost knows the entire store like the back of his hand, so if I have a question, I have no problem going to him and getting the right answer.
There's been a few times that we've been out and I've had Cole with me, and people will come up and they're like, "Is that your son?" They've told me stories of how I was in Home Depot the other day, and he's just such a great worker.
I have good friends at work.
I can't thank Cole enough for being the guy that he is, and the attitude that he brings to this store just makes it enjoyable for everybody.
Customers have a lot going on in their lives and their day, and they come in here to get help for whatever need it may be, and that smile to kind of help them know that we're here to serve and here to take care of them is something that we spend a lot of time training our associates, but with Cole, it's an automatic every time.
He's a great employee, and there's not a lot that I have to do other than just encourage him, fill his tank, and let him know he's doing a great job.
Eric makes a friend out of everybody. Everybody he talks to loves him.
I like everybody.
The first time I met him, he told me, "I work all day and I work hard." And that is true. Eric is one of the hardest workers I've ever been around. He does everything with a smile and a positive attitude.
He's very positive. He comes into work very high energy, and that energy transfers to our guests and to our employees.
That's something that warms my heart, to see that Eric has found a second home with his co-workers there at Whataburger.
Whataburger is my family.
There are so many people in place from the state level to the local level to make sure that each one of our individuals is supported.
Employers find out it's an advantage to their business because it makes their customers understand they too are compassionate.
After watching Clarence work, I've gone ahead and hired several other people with disabilities and watched them grow with the company as well.
You're going to get an employee that wants to be there. You're going to get an employee that's going to show up on time. You're going to get an employee that's going to give you 100% every day that they show up. And they're going to make a positive impact on your company.
It's incredibly important for any business to reflect their community and give that individual a chance to show what they can really bring to the table.
It's a great opportunity for everyone. No one misses out.
Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome.
All right, let's see. I'm going to see if I can figure out how to share my screen again. One moment. Okay. All right. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time touching on the video, and I'm going to pick up my pace just a little bit so we can make it through today and have a little time for questions. But you're welcome to use that video there. It's on the HHSC YouTube channel. And if Ms. Pascal is able to send the link for that and the other video that we're going to show in a moment after today, along with the PowerPoint, you guys are welcome to use those. They're for public use. All right, let's touch a little bit on we're going to be moving into what some of this will be tomorrow, but just very briefly today, employment services. So first, many of you may know this, but let's touch on what is a waiver. Well, simply it's a way a state can provide long-term care services in-home and community-based settings rather than an institution under the Medicaid program. So basically, a waiver waives off an institutional care setting. There's 7 services in the state of Texas: the HCS program, Texas Home Living, the CLASS program, DBMD, the YES program, STAR Plus, and STAR Kids, with HCS being the largest of all of the service programs in the state. And there is quite a waiting list. A lot of folks are on this for years to get on one of these programs. I'm not going to spend too much time on this right here, but we touched on it a little earlier. What is competitive integrative employment? So I just want to stress it one more time. It's working, earning minimum wage or better in the community alongside people without disabilities. Employment services are offered under the waivers. The providers are reimbursed for offering those services. There's employment assistance and supported employment. Employment assistance assists the individual in finding the job, and supported employment helps them to maintain that job. So what are some of the things families are typically concerned about when you start talking about your loved one going to work? Well, first off, families are concerned with failure. We're all concerned with that, right? Any of us are scared of failure. Our first job, we were scared to fail. But it's normal to go to work and experiment with making a few errors and navigating your way through. So it's very normal to fear failure. And that's something that many family members are concerned with, is their loved one venturing off and failing. Families are also concerned with losing their benefits. Maybe if they venture off and go to work, they sometimes fear becoming homeless because they became independent, maybe they fell. And also there's a real fear with a lot of folks when someone ventures out, there's fear of the criminal justice system, things happening. They're also very fearful of safety for their loved one. They're worried that the individual may be taken advantage of and even abused by caregivers. Also, they fear their concerns for their general health issues. And that's even greater now, right? So it's even a greater concern. Also, there's fear that if my loved one goes to work, that they'll lose their waiver slot or they'll lose their cash benefits. And so tomorrow, Shamir's going to talk in depth on that subject. So before we go into questions, let's take a look at one more video focused at families. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen again, and then we'll come back and just do a little Q&A. So Gary, I'll give it to you.
Okay.
Having a job means much more than a paycheck for persons with disabilities. It means greater satisfaction, self-confidence, and independence in their personal lives.
When people with disabilities are employed, it gives the community an opportunity to see the value of people.
Stephanie's employment is very meaningful to her and to us and to all of her peers. She's a teacher's aide. It's the preschool special ed classroom.
I help the kids. I enjoy the work that I'm doing.
Stephanie's self-esteem has grown. I think Stephanie's independence has taken off and shot through the roof.
Confidence that it has given her is tremendous. And she was not outgoing at all until she became employed.
Jackie's job is very meaningful to her. She loves getting up every day and going to work.
I work at Toyota Experience.
Her proudest times of the week is when she comes home and she just shares a little bit what she did at work and a little bit about her customers.
She's more independent. She's more confident. She takes more initiative, both on the job and at home.
Susie works here at the Coalition of Texans with Disabilities. She handles a lot of our research and editing.
I'm going to turn my life around, and I'm not happy.
When you look at an employee, you don't really worry about if they have a disability or don't have a disability. What you want is a driven employee that's going to do the job, and that's where we've benefited. She's driven. Susie went to UT and graduated before the ADA. That's a huge feat.
As a parent, we always want our kids to be successful, and oftentimes that means, taking chances. As long as you can see that progress, she's on the right path.
We've been extremely lucky. No negatives at all from her being employed. It's all positives.
We didn't lose any benefits. Nothing's changed.
Now more than ever before, persons with disabilities can have the support of their employer, the local intellectual and developmental disability authority, local governments, as well as family and friends.
Working will give your loved one the pathway to personal growth.
So again, thank you, Gary. This video is there for you guys as well if you'd ever like to use it or in any facet. We love this video because it's testimony from other families. In all three cases, Susie's lives on her own. The other two ladies live with family, but it's testament to folks who had a fear of venturing out, but did so and are very successful. So at this point for today, we have about 10 minutes left, and I will see if Ms. Pascal has received any questions.
Sure, so we have. For everybody who has asked if we're going to make the presentation available, of course, we will. I'm going to ask that you send me an email to the self-determination group requesting it, and I'll just ship it to you. That'll be the quickest way for me as opposed to going back and trying to match names with email addresses. I want to, I've had some questions about Medicaid waiver programs and services. I will add into whatever I send you from Monty and them in the presentation. Materials, I will add a link to Medicaid waiver programs for those of you who may not have information about that. The HCBs settings rule, I'm going to send a link to help people understand what that is. I found that most people don't know. And Monty, just one quick question on that. Do you know if the Texas transition plan to the settings rule has been approved from the feds?
I have not heard that yet.
I have not heard.
Not yet.
No.
Not that we're aware of yet. And I think we would hear it because we've been trying to keep our ear to the ground on that, but we don't believe it has been yet.
Right. So I follow a page that has that information, and I had not seen it. So I just wanted to make sure. I will add links to each video that Monty has shown. And so, Gary, there were some of the questions came to me directly. So I think I've answered those. But Gary, can you go to the chat and look and see what is there and ask those questions out loud?
I don't really see any other than talking about would they get a copy of the PowerPoint and all that, which you've already answered. Someone asked if you can post the in the chat, if you can post the email that they need to send their information to.
Sure. So,
and then there's one that says, who exactly is the LTSS?
So, Monty,
Okay.
do you want to answer that?
Yeah,
or
I'm
should we-
gonna,
I'll answer that. LTSS is basically long-term services and supports, and it's a area within Health and Human Services. And basically, it's part of the Waiver Services as well. So once you receive that information, from Cindy, you'll have that as well. But basically, it just provides long-term services and supports, particularly to that individual based on their needs and their level of care. And it's a comparable. It's a wide variety of different services that could take place. Does that answer your question? I don't know who asked that. I can barely see
it. Teresa?
Yeah, I'm going to unmute so I can ask you better. So it's part of the waiver services. I mean, I'm trying to figure out who comes up with that goal and helps to secure employment.
That's actually going to be, okay, that's actually going to be the whole team when they meet at the IDT or the IPP, wherever the individual is located. And it's also going to be a mixture of conversations for that individual, the family, the provider, the case manager. They're all going to be, it's going to be a collaborative effort when you think of employment. It's never just one person that's responsible for getting this person employed. It's always going to be a collaborative effort. And how do you do that? You got to talk, you got to communicate, and everyone has to be at the table. So it's going to be, everyone is going to be on board. But as far as providing the services, again, I'm going to touch on it a little bit more tomorrow, but it depends on where they are as far as, are we just now talking about it in discussion? It's going to be at the provider level and with the family. Once the ball kind of gets rolling and they want more in depth, they want to go out, they want to visit different locations where they actually want to, possibly apply. It's going to be more so the provider as well. But then at that point, there's also another agency, which is the Texas Workforce Voc Rehab, which is going to come in. So it's different components and steps. It just depends on where the individual is in that process and what service needs to be provided for that person at that time of the employment.
That answers my question. Thank you.
So Teresa, I just want to just add too that employment support is a service option in the waivers itself. And for those of you who may not understand what those really look like, when I send you the link to the Medicaid waiver programs, it will have a chart that compares each program. And then at the bottom, it has a service delivery explanation of each service, if that's helpful.
And I can explain that a little bit as well, if that'll help, Cindy.
Yeah.
So with the waivers, when we speak of employment services, there are really two services, employment assistance and supported employment. When you think of employment assistance, think of, okay, this individual, they're looking for a job, they need transportation there, they need help prepping, grooming, how they're supposed to look for a job, just different things, how to a resume, an application. These are all things to help them get the job. Okay, they go to the interview, they secure the job. So supported employment comes in. And with supported employment, it's basically support them on the job. That's supporting them whether they need someone there to help for other support while they're there in the position, whether the employer provides it or a third party, but it's just kind of helping support it and maintain that employment so they don't lose it. So think of it in terms of that, if that helps.
Okay, and there's another question that just came in from Alana that says, what about employment first for people with SSI who don't have waivers?
Okay, so with employment first, it just depends. Then at that point, Texas Workforce Voc Rehab may come in and help provide payment or anything for those services, because with the waiver, it's a billable service, so the provider is paid. So on that end, of course, again, and I'll explain, we'll go through more tomorrow as far as how each agency works and works together. and but Texas Workforce or someone, or it would be general revenue, depending on their income and finances and things, their family finances, things of that nature, on how they receive assistance for employment services.
And I think too that it's really important, you know, what I have seen a lot of times is that people get the help in finding the job, but then the follow-up support from the provider is not discussed. And I think it's very important that if it's not brought up to you, that you bring it up to others, because oftentimes it makes or breaks a person's success in employment.
And the ball gets dropped.
You know,
Yes.
the role of the, at that stage, the continuation of the support, the job coach, the employment specialist is critical. That have just, not to belabor it, but yes, very well aware of that. And the fact that we don't want someone abandoned once they get the job, because that can be the fail point for sure. And we actually...
Go ahead, Monty.
Oh, I'm sorry. And actually right now we are working on some new training about that for providers. It's webinar based because of the current situation, but it's coming together pretty nice. And it's a big topic is the support for the person after they get the job.
Right. We've seen people who've lost their jobs and that it has caused trauma, and then they don't want to work. And so I hate to see that occur. And I just want people to know that that piece is as important as actually finding the job, maybe more so.
And it's tragic. It's tragic when that happens. I'll be honest. That is tragic.
And we only have a minute left, but I kind of wanted to add something else. Also, when you think of employment first and just the whole initiative and being an employment first state, does that mean everyone can work? No, it doesn't. Some people are retired. Basically, when I get to retirement, I don't want to work. So you have to think about that population as well. But also, everyone sitting on this call, this wasn't our first job. So just because one job doesn't work for them, that doesn't mean that that's the end all. There are other opportunities. And you just have to kind of keep that mindset as well. Because we've all transitioned to different positions and grown as well. So you have to keep that in mind.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, Monty and Shamir, thank you both. Does anybody have any last questions before we end for the day? And
I don't have any questions, but I am just going to reiterate for those on the chat, just in case you didn't see myself or Cindy's, the email that you can send your stuff to or your request to is the sdg@thearcofdfw.org. And please look us up on Facebook, the Self-Determination Group. If you're not part of the group, follow us, like us. You will see all kind of information. We're going to be holding trainings and sessions regularly.
Yeah, it's one of the things that's important to the group is that they have as much information as they can. And recently we had somebody join the call and I asked if their child would be participating and they said no. Should they? And the answer is always yes. They need this information as much as we do. And, you know, what do they understand of it? We may not know, but we know that without exposure, there is no understanding. So we hope that if you want to have your child or someone you care about participate, please have them join us. I do have one question for Monty and Shamir. The presentation that you sent me is both days. Would you prefer I wait till after tomorrow to send that out? Or is it okay to send it out if I receive emails today?
I think it's fine.
Whatever you like.
It's fine.
Okay. Yeah. I will send it out. And then I just ask that you please don't just look at the handout and not join us. Oftentimes this question and answer and the explanations that happen during, you're not going to get as much from, but I understand if something happens. So we're asked if we can record tomorrow's session. The answer is yes, we can. We only ask that if you don't want to be recorded that you let us know, and we'll have to figure out how to make that possible for you.
They would just have to turn off their. They would just have to turn off their video.
Okay. And then what I will do is once we have finished both days, since Monty and Shamir have given us permission to record, is I will put the recording up on the webpage for the self-determination group, and I will link the link to that on our self-determination Facebook page, so you can access it. Okay? Any other questions? No? Well, thank you again for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Yeah, okay, I just saw something come up. Is that you, Gary?
Yes, I'm responding to people while you're talking.
Oh, okay, very good. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss any questions. All right, everybody have a good afternoon. Thank you so much for your participation. Monty, Shamir, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
All right,
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.